and I do appreciate you taking time to be with us. D Strong, what do you see when you see what's going on with the peaceful protest? What's your thought? What are you thinking?
In all honesty, when I see the peaceful protest taking place, I think it's a positive thing. I think what I love to see about it is the diversity in the protest. I think that it's great to see that many different walks of life, from black people, white people, Asian people, every walk of life is involved in the protest. And I think what I like to see even more is that it's the youth, it's the younger generation. The younger generation, I think it speaks volumes that they're different than what the people have been over the years. And I think if they could just continue to do what they're doing, I think we're going to see some change, despite of what anybody wants to think, believe, or doesn't want to happen. And I think if they can keep that up, because they are the future, and I think it's a great representation when I see those protests of the future.
What do you think is the best way to capitalize on what has happened to make sure there is actual change? Like and my perspective is, I think a lot of people look for maybe one particular leader to lead us the right way. I think it's more on a more personal level, with all of us, black and white, looking at like what we can just personally do to change things. But what's your perspective on that?
I think, going back to the protests and the makeup of the demographic that you see out there, and this is more honestly from the younger age. I think it's imperative that they take this energy and we direct them to use this energy to exercise their rights to vote and get involved politically. Because, don't get me wrong, the protests, I definitely speaks volumes, and people are hearing them. But I think if we want to see any real change, they need to get involved and inform themselves to be active, politically in some way, shape, or form. And I think if there's anything that we can do, whether it's from a elderly standpoint or just, using our voices on the radio or whatever type of influence we have, is to encourage them to do that. Like, the protests are great. We see you, but it's like, I think the narrative that we're all missing now, at least I don't see it that much, is what's next. And I think that's kind of the question that you're asking. And next is we have to influence them and push them politically to get involved and try to vote, man. They have to exercise their voices in that way as well.
D Strong, when you see the looting and when you see the the thievery and you see all that stuff, obviously most everybody can agree that muddles everything. That makes it more difficult. We try not to focus on that part of it, but it is part of the story. I mean, what do you tell someone? It's like, oh, all they see is the looting, all they see is the rioting, all they see is the bad people. I mean, what do you say to someone like that?
That's a tough topic, because I think the looting, clearly it's not right.
Yeah.
The rioting, anything violent is not correct. And I think where it becomes a real battle is, and the word you just used was it kind of muddies things up. And I think, I'm not saying two wrongs make a right, but I think it's been muddied up this whole time so much that it's like, at some point, not saying who was even doing the rioting and the looting, saying that it was correct, or, some people are saying it's not black people, it is black people. But the bottom line is that, I'm not saying it's right, but I think the issue has been poked so much and provoked so much over the years that the pot was bound to tip over at some point. And, do I think it should continue? No. I think it needs to stop. But I would have been surprised if we never saw, and we don't see, any type of violence taking place with all of this, because it's just something that, I mean, this has been the straw that's broke the camel's back. It's just, don't get me wrong, George Floyd has brought a lot of light and insight, I think, to a lot of the world, with people stepping up. But, the fact of the matter is, it's more than just George Floyd.
Well, yeah. I wasn't a part of this meeting yesterday that talked about, why don't we get some more black influence in the show. And that is something that has bothered me for a long time, is that there are no black representatives on Real Radio. I've had conversations with D about this particular subject, and that's things to be fixed. But let's use this example in itself. I mean, it's that's symbolic of bigger issues that in that meeting they looked around and were like, okay, we need some black people.
We got Johnny Magic and we got D Strong.
And D is a very respected program director and talent that you how many stations do you program direct?
I program 4 stations. From here to Tallahassee to Panama City. For what it's worth, I do a program 4 stations.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And we've talked about this before, and I know, so I'm not talking out of school here. And how many times have you walked into an iHeart? And this is not against iHeart. This is just an example of corporate against corporate America, because iHeart has taken a stand on this and is trying to learn. But how many times have you yourself walked into a situation and you're the only black dude representing amongst all of the other media execs or program directors?
It happens quite often, and I think, you saying it's not an iHeart thing, I think, from my perspective, you hit the nail on the head that, unfortunately, that's my situation in life many times, period. And I think, that's what overall has provoked a lot of these situations, because when you can't have the conversations, or nobody's really in those conversations numbers-wise enough with strength to kind of be heard, what you said is correct. It's like the numbers are very low.
And it's funny. I think these uncomfortable conversations are part of the things that hopefully will help to bring the change. I got to tell you a true story. After the meeting yesterday, I have like 5 or 6 really great friends of mine who I wrestled with in high school who are black, and I tried to get hold of all of them because I thought, okay, let me get someone I know I can have come on. The one guy I did get hold of, his thing to me was, listen, I don't want to get in the middle of it. Call D Strong. He's more of a professional. That was my buddy, and I'm like, Ken, come on, man. And he's like, no, I don't. I just, I'm okay in my life. I don't want to get in the middle of this. And having these uncomfortable conversations, I think, important. Would you not agree?
1,000% I agree. And I'm glad and I'm fortunate that you guys have invited me on the show. Another narrative of this from a black, standing in the black community is, for what it's worth, I'm giving you my opinions. I can't speak for the rest of the black community as a whole. I can speak for myself, and with doing so, there's definitely probably black people that can relate to what I'm saying or even my situation. But the bottom line is, everybody's story is different. Everybody's opinions are different. And it's even as I'm on this show here, I'm looking at the Zoom trying to see the faces, whatever the case is. But if it's, we ask a question and it's based on a black-white situation, it's like my representation is just one answer versus what I'm being faced with. And that's what I think all these conversations are. It's like you get the one black person, but it's like, are you really getting a true perception of what that the community is really thinking? And I'll say hand in hand over and over, like, I'm not speaking for the entire black community. I'm speaking for myself and the ones that relate to me, because everybody's walk is different. Just as all your walks are different, my walk is different. Now, does that make my opinion and my experiences any less valid? Of course not. And the facts are the facts, but it's just, I think that's a whole nother battle in itself. Is, I think it's more than me. It's your buddy coming on, and I think, unfortunately, a lot of black people sometimes don't want to be in a situation like this to have to speak up. But I think that's very important, speaking to all the black people out there and the community. When you have opportunities to speak up, it's imperative that you do. That way you can get my view on it. You can get your buddy's view on it. You can maybe then even see, where do we differ? It's like, oh, well, D thought this guy thought this, but, I kind of see maybe where they have a view in the middle, but it's very important to get different views of different people in the black community.
D, how do you feel about that? And once again, we've talked about having uncomfortable conversation. This might be a little bit of it, because I will tell you that for the longest time, I probably am guilty of what they call white guilt, right? Like, I feel bad that black people are treated the way they feel they are treated, and I'll go overboard to try to be super nice to anyone black in the room because I don't want them to think that I'm racist. What is your feeling on people, or the white people that are overly, let's say, I don't know, like overly supportive now? They've never done anything before, but 2 days ago they were Blackout Tuesday, and you could tell that this is the cool thing to do, so I'm jumping on. Like, can you tell the difference, or are you just glad that they're on board now?
That's another one, man. This is roller coaster talk. These are emotions.
Hey, real radio.
real radio, real things. You know, and my wife and I'm not going to lie, I think we talk, there's 24 hours in the day. We probably talk about this 26 hours of the day, all this stuff. And, you know, it depends. I'm being real, once again, speaking for myself. Emotionally, it depends where I'm at in that day. Because, you know, at one moment I might be like, I've never seen this person have 2 cents about anything dealing with anything in the black community. All of a sudden, now you got something to say. And that's just being honest. But then on the other hand, it's like, you know what? We come from such different backgrounds and walks of life that at the end of the day, I can appreciate somebody at least even trying or putting that effort towards, because honestly, that might be all they know what to do or how to do. So I can't discredit them for that either. So, you know, it's a toss-up. And I think at the end of the day, I'd rather take something than nothing. Give me a little something.
Do you feel? Does it feel weird being like, oh, I'm the guy that you're asking all these questions to?
You know, once again, at first I was just. It does at first. It's like, okay, now y'all want to bring me on the show.
Yeah. D, honestly, that's the reason I try to get hold of my buddies, because, and also there's another friend of mine, Dr. Butch, who's been on before, and I'm like, God, I haven't talked to him so long. Oh, what? So I'm just out of the blue going to call him because this is going on because it benefits me, or we're going to ask D to come on just because it benefits, and I don't want to come across as disingenuous. But then again, I'm weighing it, and I'm like, well, it's more important for me to not worry about that and have D come on and explain his. It's a weird thing that you walk. You know what I'm saying?
It is, and honestly, I commend you for taking this step, because once again, you know, a lot of this stuff is kind of getting past the uncomfortable situations, and just like you described that probably was definitely an uncomfortable situation. But the fact we always got to talk about is that facts are facts, and you know, I've been in this building for 6 years, 7 years. I think I came on once before when it was a company initiative to push an event. And past that, this is when I'm on the show. And I think, you know, I'm not mad at it, but we gotta understand, and we can't be in denial of that. It's like,
no,
you know, I got more views other than just because George Floyd got killed and black initiatives are being taken place now. It's like, I'm a human being that I may have a lot of other important stuff to say on a lot of other things, not just this.
You do.
And you're right, and I got to say, Carlos has mentioned it to me a couple times, and I've always said, yeah, that'd be great. And then I'll say I didn't do anything about it, so that's on me. Wasn't anything personal. Just I know you mentioned it, Carlos, and I know I said, hey, we'd love that, and then we just never made that. And so it takes something like this for us to come together. I don't know, but I didn't want it. You know, you don't want to come across as you don't
want to.
Yeah,
but that's what this is all about. That's what it's like, getting it all out. You can have the fake conversation. You can not mention things like, 6 years you've been around and you haven't come on, or you can get it out in the open and be like, yeah, D and I are very close, so this is, also kind of odd because like we've had these conversations, and I think, us having a relationship also made it a little less uncomfortable for you to come on here because, if it's some random ass show, let's just say you didn't have a connection with anybody on here, and they're like, hello, this is Bill with the Monkeys in the Morning, and we'd like to have you on. It would be it would be different.
Well, what's funny is you've mentioned it to me several times before. I know I had met D Strong, but like I didn't really know much about him until I saw you at the Magic game the one time, and I did stop by your office. I'm like, dude, you do a great job, because I had a connection there. I could actually talk to you about something instead of something made up. Just hey, he's a black guy. I got to go say hi to him. I'm really weird about. I don't want to come across as disingenuous. When I saw the job that you did at the Magic game, I had to stop and tell you, man, you kick ass. But I know other people had questions.
Man.
I appreciate that.
You being authentic and genuine, because you're right. If it's something forced, it's not real. I don't like those things either. So the fact that everything happens for a reason, and if this is the time for me to come on, this is it, and let's make the best of it.
Ryan Holmes, a question for D Strong.
Yeah, I like what you said about, like, you don't want to speak for all black people because white people would be in trouble if I spoke for all white people because I'm a moron. But the thing about it is is there a generational divide in the black community? Because are older black people not coming out because they don't support it, or is it just protesting so exhausting that it's a young man's game?
Well, you know what? It's interesting you say that, because speaking to other people amongst the community, I don't think that the protesting is something that everybody has to do. I think what's important is that everybody is doing something. And I had a conversation with somebody the other day asking them, what do you think is next, or what do you think is necessary to move this along? And I think the way they answered it, I was like, wow, it makes a lot of sense, is that this is one giant big puzzle of people trying to change something. You need the people on the front lines protesting. You need the people that maybe are behind the scenes having political forums or town hall meetings that may not be on the front lines protesting. And I think the older people probably have been through so much and seen things already that, one, maybe they haven't seen the results from the protesting, first and foremost, but secondly, it could be distracting them from doing things that they know might be more effective, or, combined with the protest could be even more effective. Because I know a lot of the older demo dealing with this stuff are doing more things politically, whether it be, it could be simply as donating, where they have money that a younger generation or a younger demo may not have, or going to a town hall meeting, or drafting up letters for city officials, or whatever the case is. So
the other part of it is also we're in the middle of COVID, and we know that this pandemic, it does attack our elders, viciously. So they can't, for the sake of protesting, I could understand why they're going to go those other avenues and do the mail-ins and do that kind of activism, because that's just as important as the actual protests and the marches.
No, and honestly, with the COVID, a lot of people have forgot about that, but the African Americans were the number one, race dying off from it and getting infected with COVID. So that's a whole other thing. So mixing that with being elderly, African American, you're really risking it all.
Yeah. Angelique, you had a question for D Strong.
Yes. Hi, D Strong. Angelique here. I've never officially, I don't think I've ever officially met him, so I wanted to say hi.
I've never met you either. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you as well. How tired are you? I've spoken with so many of my friends and I've seen it where it's like, stop asking me what to do. Stop coming to me and asking me if I'm okay. Look things up. Make an effort on your own. Make a concerted effort on your own. Look up the hashtags. Look up certain things. How tired are you just with all of this and what people expect of you, almost even more now?
I'm exhausted. I'm mentally exhausted. I'm mentally drained. I know I'm in broadcast and I signed up to be somebody that services the community, but I think the exhausting part of all of this, for me personally, once again speaking for myself, is that, and I had said this on the call yesterday, is being on the front lines and trying to get the information and regurgitate it back out to people and let everybody know what's going on. It distracts and it kind of conflicts with me being able to process it personally for myself. Because I'm still a human being dealing with what's taking place. Not only am I a human being dealing with what's taking place, I'm honestly the target. Yes. I'm the most affected by this. And, taking some time to even process it for myself, that's when it's between that and the work balance of trying to still, serve the community. It's draining. It's exhausting. It's extremely exhausting. I don't really get many questions about how can we help, what should we do. Maybe a few, and I do think for the most part, kind of like how Russ feels. I think people are somewhat in that space of like, I don't know if I should hit them up or I don't know, whatever the case is. So I don't really deal with that too much. But it's just the daily, trying to be on the radio, get the information out, and then processing it. Because let's say, it's just a lot. The protest. I'm seeing the protest, and it's like I'm giving the information about the protest. Meanwhile, if there's violence being taken place, and I got little cousins and nephews, and it's like, not wanting this to happen to them when they're out and about. It's a lot to process, a lot.
Hey, you mentioned that, and it's, I say sadly, we all are learning things as we're going. I never had seen, nor heard, nor even realized, what I've seen on TV recently is that black parents have to sit down with their kids and have this discussion of, hey, here's what happens if a police officer comes up to you. Here's the things you have to say. You have to like that. Never even. I mean, as a white kid, that didn't even enter my mind. Do you have children, and is that something you've had to do?
I don't have children. And in all honesty, it's interesting because another conversation I had in my household yesterday with my wife is I never really got that talk from my parents. We can talk about this stuff and go super deep. But the reality of it is, people are saying, you have a set of people that are addressing African Americans. You have a set of people that are addressing blacks. My foundation and my background is not African American. I'm West Indian. My parents are immigrants. They grew up in a whole different set of things where they were so unprivileged to where them just even having an opportunity in America as a whole was just like, oh my goodness gracious. So they view this completely different than maybe an African American, somebody that grew up in America.
Right.
View things. So I don't think, and I'm processing that. That's another thing I'm processing as this is going on. I don't think they ever felt compelled to ever have that conversation.
And as you're talking right now, just so you know, and we're doing uncomfortable conversation, I never know if I'm supposed to say African American or black guy. Am I supposed to say he's an African American guy, or am I supposed to say he's a black guy? I don't want to be offensive. Which do you say?
And there's no exact right answer to that, because depending on who you're talking to and how, one, their actual background, their descendant, and how they're going to take it, I don't know. For me, once again, I can't speak for everybody. It makes no difference to me.
Okay.
I do know there are some people that will be like, I'm not African American. I'm not African American. I'm Jamaican, or I'm Haitian, and it's just like, okay, I get that too. Can't be mad at them. But once again, I never had those talks, and just to kind of get back to that, that was something where I thought I was self-taught, me personally, by dealing with it firsthand. And I was just like, oh my God, like you see it on the news. Seeing it on the news is one thing.
Yeah.
But being pulled over on the side of that street and not knowing what's going to happen, that is some scary shit.
Yeah. And when you're driving, if there's a police officer behind you, do you automatically get nervous, scared?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. Without a doubt. Nervous. Like, it's the most nerve-wracking thing. Don't let it be at night. At night, oh my Lord, it just you fear for your life.
Yeah,
fearing for my life. No exaggeration.
Carlos, a question for D Strong.
Well, D, I mean, just in general, I mean, there's so much that we've talked about. I'm glad that you're on here in general. But I mean, you are also the voice of the Orlando Magic. A huge organization that you deal with a lot of different people. And how does it make you feel that, I guess this is part of the whole deal, like that the two companies that you work for, a year ago, it was a totally different way of viewing Black Lives Matter, a totally different way of viewing the stance, but come a long way in a short amount of time through some trials and tribulations. But what can you say about, our team and our company right now?
Both. It's interesting because to me they're both clearly major corporations, major companies that operate very differently, and I think the structure is made up very differently. Not saying one is better than the other, but I think from the Magic standpoint, I'm gonna address that first. Is I think they have so much diversity that it's somewhat honestly maybe comforting. Because it's a lot of diversity. I mean, if you just take the players alone, it's no secret that the majority of them are black.
Right.
Then the actual entertainment staff. It's just it's not that one of those. I walk in the room, and I'm the one black pepper seed in the room.
Right.
It's never like that. Within our company, not saying it's like that either. I think we're more spread out. I think I just think if there's something we could do better as a company or improve on is, when things like this take place, to use, I had an epiphany yesterday. iHeartRadio, the company we work for, the radio stations we work for, are advertising companies.
Right. That's
Whether
some
you
bread
want
and
to
butter.
Digital, whatever it is, without with the revenue of advertising, we're feeling it right now due to the pandemic. So in a time like this, how can we not come together to figure out some way, if we want to look at it as advertising, to send a message out to the world collectively that's powerful?
Yeah.
How is that a hard task?
Yeah.
Because it's such a touchy subject all the way around, and people are afraid to have the conversations like we're having right now. You know, they are afraid.
But what is so? And I stand firm on this as well. A lot of people want to talk about the race factor of this,
right?
Because racism. I'm going to look at it as a race situation for the most part, and a lot of people are viewing it as that. Let's say we take the race out of it.
All right.
Let's say it was a white guy on a white guy's neck. Let's say it was a black guy on a white guy's neck. Let's say it was a white guy on a dog's neck. The bottom line is, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong.
Right.
If we're not even addressing race, let's not do that then. If it's too uncomfortable for everybody to do that, can we all address the fact of what took place was wrong?
I think everyone agrees with that. I mean, I've even seen the people that I am embarrassed from some of their thought process, and even they agreed that what happened was wrong. I mean, there's not a whole lot of people on the other side, are there? I mean, I haven't seen anyone.
I mean, what I showed you today, that's going to show you that they don't think that it's wrong.
Yeah.
There are many people out there. It's just that you don't hear them and you don't see them.
The silent majority.
You know, they're the same people who are posting his criminal record or are saying he had this in his system or that, he was struggling, he was trying to get up, he was a bigger guy than them. Is it the majority? No. But I think to say that everybody agrees, no, because everybody doesn't agree. And some of the highest elected officials may not agree with that.
Well, D,
if you don't mind, I'm sorry. What I wanted to ask, I wanted to kind of flip it on you to ask your thoughts and opinions. I think now often people are turning to us so much, us as in the black people, to give their thoughts and opinions. It's like, what do you think we could do to change? How are you feeling about this?
What I think is, and I've said this on the air, by watching and seeing how many people are actually getting involved, white and black and all creeds and colors and everyone, I think is awesome. I think we all individually have to make small changes, things you might, and I've tried to do it myself. I will be honest with you, but before I didn't understand kneeling during the national anthem. I thought, why would you do that? That's ridiculous. I look at it totally different now. I look at it like, oh, I get it. That was a peaceful way to try to get a message out. And I've made a little bit of a change. I think each individual person needs to sit back and go, hey, what have I done in my past that maybe was taken the wrong way, or maybe was insensitive when it comes to racism, and maybe, because we can only change ourselves. You're not going to change somebody else. So we need to sit back, white people and black people and people of color, whatever color, and go, okay, what can I do to personally make things better? I don't want to make things worse. Personally, I think that's the only solution. I don't think one person is going to guide us to the right way. I think we have to guide ourselves.
I get it. I mean, that makes sense. And I think you hit something very important, the fact that you can only change yourself, and it begins there.
Yeah. Angel, question for D.
D, now that you've come on the show and everything, and one of the ways that I think we could take this forward and take this conversation forward is I get to sit down with you on the airs of the Beat 105.9 and go track by track for the new album by Run the Jewels.
Oh.
Come on!
Let me see. Come on, man. I'll see what we can do.
Well, D, let me say, I apologize if this is the first. And I know that you came on once before to promote something. I apologize. This is the first time we had you on to talk about something other than to promote a gig. I would like to
hear more about D. He's on To the Top. He was one of the initial guests I had on. You can find that on monsters.fm, and you can learn a lot more about D. And just find it To the Top with Carlos D. Strong. A lot more about him.
D. Strong, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Love you, brother.